What's a money mistake that most people don't realize is a mistake until it's too late? Lending money to friends. I had a friend recently ask me to lend him $50. I told him I don't lend money to friends. I gave him some money to get through a tough time and told him that it's a gift so he doesn't have to pay it back. Friends look out for each other when they can. If you lend them money, you'll probably never see it again. And then you've lost the money and the friend. Friends are worth more than that. Yeah, 20 plus years later, my mom still is pissed that my brother never repaid me for a loan, for something totally non-necessary. I finally had to explain something that I heard previously. If you give money to a friend/relative, treat it as a gift. If you get it back, great. If not, you won't be disappointed. My best friend of 20 years and I are this way. Lunch, dinner, drinks, round of golf, dinner with girlfriends, etc. One of us picks up the tab, and one of us gets it next time. We're only 30, but we've reached the fighting over the check phase of friendship. Couldn't even tell you if there was any sort of imbalance between who owes the other what. He has started his own business, and I can think of 2 times where he has asked for a small loan, each so he could pay an employee before his cash flow came in. Each time, roughly, $4,000. Each time he had the money paid back within 2 days. DoorDash addiction, it's getting ugly. People are DoorDashing ice cream. It's absurd, the level of absurdity as well, absurd. My son has friend in Heist that essentially pay $20 to have a $6 drink DoorDash to them. WTF? My wife and I make pretty good money, and neither of us have ever used any kind of food delivery service other than traditional pizza delivery. It absolutely blows my mind how much our friends spend using DD and UE. It absolutely blows our friends' minds that we don't. Not paying the full balance on a credit card every month, getting anything via rent to own, using a pawn shop or payday loan, buying a classic car and expecting to flip it for more. Buy things that are durable, not the latest and greatest. Take care of what you buy. No one cares what brand of clothes or shoes you wear. Not saving for retirement when they're young. Compound interest can be your friend. Compound interest is wild. When I was in college, I got hit by a drunk driver and got a settlement from his insurance. After getting my life stabilized, my mom made me put the remaining $25,000 into an investment account, 1996, and I completely forgot about it until last year. The account is now worth $400,000. The best investing strategy is time. There really is no substitute for it. I will forever thank my high school math teacher, Mr. L, for showing me the magic of compound interest. It is because of him that I started investing at 22, when I got my first real job. I'm now in my 50s and very grateful I paid attention to Mr. L in class. Throwing money into an IRA, not realizing you have to actually go in and buy the stocks, ETFs, etc. you want that money to go to. A girlfriend of mine had been throwing money into her IRA for over 8 years and never bought a single stock with it because she didn't know. Lost 8 years of investments on it. Buying a timeshare. Came here to say this. Was just talking with 19-year-old son. He casually mentioned that a timeshare looked like a good idea for when he was older. Wife and I immediately, and loudly, at the same time were like, no. Proceeded to explain in detail the horrible experiences we had heard of. I think it was explaining to him that there is a whole industry of companies that make their money just helping people get out of timeshares that really nailed it for how horrible they are. I honestly don't understand, in a world where Airbnb, VRBO, and other similar sites are easily available, how timeshares still even exist. To me, all a timeshare is a hotel with a lot of expense and extra steps. I really and truly don't see the upside. In fact, we've kind of profited on the other end. This past summer, we traveled to Virginia and stayed in a gorgeous 3-bedroom condo in a timeshare community with great amenities, indoor and outdoor pools, mini golf, arcade, movie theater, etc., for less than the cost of a regular hotel. It was basically a timeshare that would have gone unused otherwise. We went in, treated it like a hotel, and just walked away when we were done. I saw another response that talked about not paying the total balance each month. I'll take credit cards in a different direction. Getting college kids to sign up for credit cards without education on how they really work. Using your credit card to pay for something you cannot afford. Everyone thinks they will be able to keep up with the payments, but the fact is, if you cannot afford to pay for it in cash, you also cannot afford to pay for it with your credit card. When I was a young adult, someone I knew admitted they were $20,000 in credit card debt on nothing in particular. I was astonished because I thought credit cards were for convenience only, and that to use them you had to promos to pay it off completely at the end of the month, and that if you didn't, the places you bought from wouldn't get the money. Since taking things from a store without paying is stealing, that would mean a visit from the cops. So yes, I honestly thought that if you didn't pay off your credit cards completely at the end of the month and didn't report to the bank and try to come up with agreement, then the cops would come knock on your door. Yes, I had a credit card at that point. This was decades ago, so no, I obviously didn't read the fine print. Microtransactions in video games, it adds up, quick. Take it from someone who was in major student loan debt. It's not understanding how interest can either work for you or against you. I used to be in school debt, over $200K to give you a ballpark. At the end of grad school, I had to take exit counseling. My $200K over 10 years would have ballooned to an equally outrageous number. I lived on nothing to get that monkey off my back. My friends, however, did not do that and let the interest eat at them for 10 years, living off of credit cards, trading in a car you owe money on. Somehow I never realized you have to pay that amount off too. Gee, I'm 55 and just barely realized this kind of late in my life. Hope someone reads this and figures it out way sooner than I have. Not investing early for retirement. Contribute as much as you can early on, especially if you don't have dependents. Throw whatever you can, up to legal limit of courses. Every year you wait starting this means potentially losing out on hundreds of thousands of dollars over a 30-year time span. Not watching the small expenses. I'm in my late 30s and used to argue with older people that the $5 coffee or $35 takeout didn't matter. But when I started liked it as $35 per week times 52 weeks and then looked at that number, $1T20, as a yearly expense, and then looking at that $1T20 versus my rent or car payment or even a percentage of my annual take-home, it suddenly made sense. The small expenses, little treats, DoorDash, whatever, really do add up. And once I realized that and got my expenses under control, I started saving, investing, and now I'm in a really great spot. Letting anything go to collections without talking to a financial advisor or paying the collection agency. If you can, try to settle your debt with the company or institution you owe money to directly. If you can't make a deal with a company institution, talk to an advisor. Collection agencies buy your debt and get a premium for coercing you into making payments. Also, if someone in your family dies and has any form of debt, do not claim it as your own. Don't make any payments without talking to a financial advisor or even a lawyer. Tell whoever is calling to kick rocks until you sort it out, depending on what kind of debt it is. There's a chance the debt dies with them. Trying to save too much money, or even worse, tying money up in investments while still having outstanding debt. Not saying you should have zero savings. Ideally, you should try to have enough set aside to cover you for a few months in case of emergencies. Beyond that, everything else should be going straight towards paying down outstanding debts. Because the interest you will be paying on those debts will always be higher than the returns you could get back from any savings. So keeping more money than you actually need for a safety net is actually just throwing money away.